What's up, everybody? You're listening to the Matt Pete Marketing Podcast. And today I'm super excited to bring you the man, Dan Chan here. He is, Buzzfeed did a full feature profile on Dan Chan and dubbed him Silicon Valley's favorite magician. He's been featured on ABC, Bay Area Backroads, Radio Disney, The Wall Street Journal, The Hustle. And if that weren't enough, Business Insider and CNBC featured him recently twice in 2020. He was also a PayPal pre-IPO and participated in Airbnb's IPO. I just thought that was awesome. If you don't know what IPO is, initial public offering, he got in on those companies really early, which is awesome. You know, when we talked on Facebook the other day and, you messaged me, I wasn't sure how magician and how magic fit into marketing, and you sent me some audio messages explaining it. And I was okay. I was convinced. What is your marketing passion, though?
You have to understand all aspects of marketing, but right now it is about a global reach, and you can reach a lot of people with YouTube ads, and you can pay pennies for an impression. So I can hit these corporate buyers with different ads in a different ad funnel, and they can be bombarded with your ads. But you don't want to annoy people, but you do want to make a nationwide appearance, because I'm doing these ticketed shows where people can buy tickets. So it's all about resonating with them, and that is about making people see these reactions. Now, you have to think about what your market is. And with magic, I can immediately show these freak out reactions. If you go to my website, millionairesmentalist.com, you're going to see a lot of people freaking out. You can't do that with any other industry. So when a lot of people are doing different things in these pre-roll YouTube ads, like, hi, my name is, people don't even know my name, but they just see like a flash, and it's MTV style edits of people freaking out, or my son juggling 3 flaming torches, or 5 balls, or picking pockets. You're going to see all this, and you're like, we've got to book this guy for a virtual event. But to bring it back to your original question about marketing, Dan Chan, Magic Man, has hypnotic marketing. Dan Chan rhymes, Magic Man is an alliteration. If you think about Max Lucado, who writes these spiritual books, he uses rhymes and alliteration a lot. In fact, when we grew up, we started with Cat in the Hat.
Yeah.
Why is Cat in the Hat so resonating with children? Because one, it makes learning easy, but you can't forget things like that. You still probably remember it, and it's still a bestseller. But when you get older, it's just kind of like cheesy if you do it so blatantly. So when you get older, you sneak it in subtly. And in fact, I just noticed one thing. When Grammarly, which is one of the best products in the world, tells you to suggest a different word because you're too repetitive, it actually often uses an alliteration. And I did not know that until recently. So if you have not, I have no stake in Grammarly, although when they IPO, I will be buying shares because I suck as a writer. And Grammarly catches all my mistakes, and it's better than spell check. I own Grammarly Premium. I have no stake in it, but I will once they IPO. I just love that product. And marketing is all about being in the moment and being passionate. So whatever I'm passionate about, whatever I see that evokes curiosity, I ask myself, what makes this viral? So it's all about eyeballs. It's all about impression. But I knew my son, for example, was going to take over my business, but we started off on the streets performing. But if a 5-year-old stops you on the street and says, would you like to see a magic trick? You're probably going to say no. But what if the 5-year-old was juggling 4 balls? What? And that's exactly what I had him do. By age 5, he was juggling 3 balls. Very shortly afterwards, he was juggling 5 balls. By the age of, I think, 8, he was juggling 3 flaming torches. He was doing 3 flaming torches and then picking pockets. He was on national television twice by the age of 12 on Tiffany Haddish's Kids Say the Darndest Things. He was on Access Daily with Penn and Teller, and hopefully we can drop those in the show notes because people don't Believe it. And he is actually doing shows by himself over Zoom, performing for Allbirds and Walmart.
That's insane. Oh my gosh.
And everything is a video first. Remember that we all know as marketers, video captures. So I said, I'm a magician. I'm going to lean into my strength. You know, I'm not really structured. I jump around a lot. That's not my strength. So I lean into that. So when you see this flashy video of this something jumping around, it's like MTV age. We have such a short attention span, including myself, but you just lean into it. So one thing is you don't have to wait until everything is perfect. You just have to go for it and lean into it. You notice I'm not really a structured guy. I usually jump around, but that is a strength. Your biggest weakness is often the same strength. So ask yourself, what are you weak at? Acknowledge it, and then kind of push toward that. I might not be really focused, but I have a lot of information, so I just kind of overload it, and people like that sometimes.
Yeah.
And then when you realize that's your weakness, start working on that weakness.
I like where this interview is going already. One, your son juggling at such an early age. And obviously, like you said, that's something different and unique. It's not a kid asking to show you a magic trick. He's visually doing something amazing. So, I mean, I thought that was, I think that's amazing that he was able to do that. And like you said, it's all about the eyeballs, doing something different. So when it comes to your business, what can we do different? That's like your 5-year-old kid juggling 3 balls, or, age 8 juggling 5 balls, and 10 years juggling 3 flaming torches. Like, what is something in business that can be a 10-year-old juggling flaming torches? Because that's going to get attention. Absolutely love that.
It's the purple cow. I forgot who coined the purple cow. I think it was we
Seth
all know.
Godin.
Seth Godin. Yeah. So, it's your version of the purple cow. The purple cow does work.
Yes, absolutely. And I mean, the fact that you learned that to that degree and were able to get your son that much notoriety at such an early age, I mean, that is the true embodiment of the purple cow,
And that purple cow took a long time. Like before he was born, I was already thinking, what am I going to do? I had that planned out. And a lot of entrepreneurs, they think that something's going to happen overnight, but they have to figure out all the mistakes and they have to plan out things. Most entrepreneurs give up too early, or they spend too much money too soon. So the problem is they buy into a big coaching course, so they do something way too early. And I was thinking, if I was going to upend coaching, I would be like, everyone, $25, you just go in, get value, and then not upsell you immediately. Just wait until you've made money, and then keep them within the funnel, continue to add value. And when they start to make money, start having these higher ticket items, because most people aren't ready for these coaching things. But you just want to get them to buy into you and always continue to throw in value, whether you're on LinkedIn or Facebook or anywhere else. Just throw value at people. I have ideas. I'm already thinking of my exit for Magic. Once my son takes over the corporate events, which is a little bit of a stretch for a 13-year-old kid, I'm out. I'm going to go investing, or I'm going to do something else, because I don't want it to be Groundhog's Day, because that low-hanging fruit, you can gorge yourself on that. And when you're starting off on business, get that sale, get that low-hanging fruit, but then move on. I see a lot of entrepreneurs, same mistake I did, stayed at too low a price point for too long. When you have customers and they love you, don't be afraid to get on the phone and discuss with them what they're comfortable with. But you don't want to do this. The old marketing was, how much is your budget? And then charge them that. Just tell them, hey, for this amount of time, this is the lowest I can do something. But if you had a larger budget, we can talk about it. So you're creating an authentic relationship, and you're asking genuine questions, as opposed to, I'm going to rip you off and I'm going to take everything that's on the table, regardless if I'm worth it or not. And I see entrepreneurs doing that all the time. They're just looking at, I saw this guy charging $2,000. Yeah, they probably are, some of them, but they have so much more experience than you. So you just have to get in on the ground floor and start working it, and be authentic. And don't charge people when you do not deliver. I have one show recently, and I've done 5,000 shows, 300 Zoom shows. I had one show recently that I had a client that I was billing them $1,000, and I did not feel good about the show. I told them that was an off day, and I said, I do not want your money because I do not want the balance due, which was $500. I literally said that, and the corporate client said, we're okay with it. We're going to pay you. But they knew that I could deliver a lot more and I was authentic. And I said to them, thank you very much. Let me come into another event of yours and let me drop in and show you some of my newest magic effects and let me try to redo it. But don't be afraid to offer a refund if you're not satisfied. And I'll tell you this, if you're not happy with my show, if you buy a ticketed thing, which we're going to drop in the show notes, I'm going to give you your money back, minus the fees that Airbnb takes because I don't get all the money. But I will give you your money back if you are not happy with the show. That's how confident I am of my product. And you have to be that confident. And if you want to succeed as an entrepreneur versus a wannabe entrepreneur, you have to have that mentality that if someone were to ask you for your money back, would you be so confident at the price that you're charging to do that? Because it's all about the long game, as Simon Sinek says. Most people are in it for the short game, so they don't have that infinite mindset.
Yep, absolutely. And I love that. I love that lesson. I want to jump in here really quick though and do the pod deck question before we go any further in the interview, because the interview is already going amazing. So if everybody watching, listening, these are pod decks. They random deck of cards. I just like to follow up my own little magic trick here and draw a random card and see what we get for Dan Chan here. So Dan, if you had to delete all but 3 apps from your smartphone, which ones would you keep?
Wow, that is a really, right now, I love Duolingo because it teaches me Chinese. And I think it's one of the best foreign language apps out there. I also love Waze because I used to drive a lot and I see a lot of potential there. And I like Instagram, but those are just right now because I'm thinking of eyeballs. It might later move to TikTok and it may move to Clubhouse. I'm just always exploring that. I'm revisiting things, but I'm not saying, hey, I never do this, because a lot of people say I never look at it. I think if you want to be a marketer, you have to be omnipresent. Yes. You need to go everywhere your crowd is and sometimes try things. So when if I'm going to go on, my friend just sent me something for Twitch. So I'm not even on Twitch often, but anytime you're going in a new platform, feel free to post your stuff up there and delete it afterwards, but at least you're getting used to that. A lot of people just have this cold feet saying, hey, I'm not going to do this because I'm a podcaster. I think podcasting is very, very saturated. So for podcasting, you can have your standard format, but when you're doing a Twitch, say, hey, I'm going to try something out. Maybe it's a guest that you normally wouldn't have and you just want to riff with them, or maybe it's someone younger. For example, you don't want to be both not great at a platform, but maybe you get a young guy who's an Instagram influencer, but it's never done podcasts, and you go on Twitch with them and they teach you something and they bring in eyeballs. So you're leveraging their crowd on a new platform. And podcasting is so saturated. I think the next wave is going to be something like a video podcast. For example, you can have the option to turn the video on or off, and it's organic. And it's like that YouTube where you're listening and you can transfer that over. And I think that is a really cool business model. And I'm talking to VC people and entrepreneurs, and I'm telling them these ideas because I can't execute on them. But most people think, oh, I have a good idea. Someone's going to rip me off. Be so good at that idea that they give you equity. Like, just give your ideas away. Most people are thinking, oh, you're gonna die with your best ideas, because most of your ideas suck when they come out, but someone else will refine them. And when they hear that you have so many great ideas, they're going to bring you in as a board member. But people think way too small. And that is how I participated in IPOs. And that's how I participated in these epic things that you read about in the media. It's because I just gave ideas out, and most of them sucked at the beginning. And then the ones that end up being good, people are like, wow, that's pretty good. And I had 100 ideas that sucked, but a couple of them ended up becoming really good. And a couple of them ended up becoming really great relationships. Like I connected with podcasters. I suck at podcasting. I've probably done about 30 or 40 of them now, but I'm getting a lot better at it. But the most important part is now we're friends.
No, I think you're doing great at podcasting, because I've had people on the show where, in not necessarily this one, but my old podcast, where it was like pulling teeth to get them to answer. Like I would ask them that random pod deck question about their favorite 3 apps, and they'd say 3 names and then be like, all right, that's it. But like you just took that answer and tied it back into your mindset and your thought process about how you do business, which I think is amazing insight. You mentioned TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
I am. We've posted a couple of videos when we're traveling. Once in a while, when I see something or someone talks about their TikTok, I'll jump on TikTok. I think I'm on there as Dan Chan Magic. I have more content and more professional content on Instagram. However, I'll sometimes post some lower quality content on TikTok just to be in that space.
I feel like you would do really well on TikTok with the magic.
It might be. I think there's a lot of competition. So I know there's younger people who dominate on that space. So if you think about blue ocean strategy, why go where everyone else? I don't want to be number 2.
Yeah.
Those young people aren't great at business. And a lot of business podcasts have entrepreneurs. Like you might have $1 million business later, but podcasters are business people. They're wanting to be business people. So later on, I'm connecting with real businesses versus people who are looking to connect with brands. The reason why I would go into TikTok would be to recruit these young influencers so that I can be the middleman between brand partnerships. Because I'm 43. I look like I'm 25, right? But I'm 43.
Yeah.
And young people can sense that you're old. You might not think that I'm old just by looking at me, but I'm a dinosaur compared to those young magic influencers. So I know where I fit in, and you have to go to what audience you resonate with. You can play with it. You have to know and keep your foot in that door just to keep it open.
Yeah. Well, a 13-year-old juggling flaming torches, that might be a good place for your son. Because I mean, that's impressive. I want to see that for sure.
I shared that link with you right here. He is picking pockets and juggling torches right there.
Okay. So yeah, I'm going to put that on your show notes page at mattpete.com. It'll be mattpete.com/Dan Chan. Or in the blog post section, you'll be able to find you, and you can see the video there, because I'm excited to check that out. So Dan, what's something you see people doing in their marketing that makes you cringe?
There's so many things. One thing is charging more than you feel that you're worth and thinking that you're going to get away with it. Because I put myself in my customer's shoes. So I think, or not being authentic, or I think in these things, people want to pump and dump, like with GameStop, and that's what I think, like people are like, oh, go on Reddit. When I went on there, I was like, everyone wrote in broken English. And I'm like, why are people on this platform? Why are they not being careful about the way that they're speaking? And then they have this hard transition because they speak all ghetto when they want to ask for money. And business people use full sentences and words, and they watch their capitalization. And then they wonder themselves, why am I not connecting with the audience? Because business people know how to frame things, and there's a structure and order. So if you're on Reddit, you can practice, but I pushed myself out on Quora to become a better writer probably 4 or 5 years ago, because I knew I was not a good writer. And the only thing I wanted to do with Quora was be a top writer. And some of my views, I can screen share a little bit later. Some of my views have 100,000 K views plus.
Wow.
So, yeah.
That's impressive. I love that. I love that. So yeah, if you're trying to get into marketing, look out for those mistakes because like you said, and I know you mentioned Grammarly. I'm sure that comes into play with you trying to become a better writer. And real quick, for people who out there who don't know what Quora is, can you give a brief explanation of that?
It's a place where thought leaders and influencers post real questions. It's a great place. Like if you wrote what is a PE ratio, often Quora would show up, but it's an amazing platform. And the way I found out about them was a friend posting something on Facebook, and he had this great article and he wrote real sexy. And I was like, I want to write like that. I want to be like that. So I followed him and I read everything. And now I can say I'm pretty close to where he's at, because some
That's
of my
awesome.
posts have probably got to that number. But Quora is just a place to ask questions and get really good answers. And
Cool.
by the way, Quora actually hired me for my Magic and Dinner show in Cupertino, California, and my client list is from A to Z. So they're also a relationship. They've hired me before, so it's interesting.
That's
that
really
keep
cool.
These relationships going.
That's really cool. All right, Dan, if you were to start marketing for a new business today and you only had $1,000 in your budget, how would you spend that to get some more clients?
YouTube ads, hands down YouTube ads, and video marketing. But even before that, I would discount my fee because people like discounts. Everyone loves a good deal, but a lot of people are like throwing money at a problem and they just end up wasting money, myself included. Oh my gosh. You're throwing money at it before you're getting this tested, and then you're wondering why it doesn't stick. So just get your product out there.
Okay. So YouTube ads, that's one thing I'll talk about for a second, because I've never done YouTube ads. Obviously, I see them all of the time, but do you have any like secrets that you use whenever you're creating a YouTube ad that works?
First 3 seconds, if they hit skip ads, I'm not sure if it's still the same, but make it impactful, because you're going to make this big boom. And then if they hit skip ad, you don't pay for it. So you're everywhere.
Okay. So if whenever I hit that skip ad, the company's not paying for that impression.
Yeah. And there's different ad formats too. So you have to look at, there's so many ad formats, it confuses me. That's why I just paid for a new course. And I used to be an expert at this and I shut it off because I was just going all organic. When I was featured in Business Insider, CNBC, Wall Street Journal, and all these, they were giving me backlinks in a lot of them. So I didn't even need that. So I'm a little bit rusty, to be honest with you, but I'm not an expert at it. I'm by far not an expert. There's this guy called, just search omnipresent marketing. I paid for 2 of the things in there, but he has a lot of upsells. I did not buy any of the upsells. I just bought it yesterday night. I think I spent a little less than $100, but I found it kind of annoying because it asked me, do you want this for $297? Do you want this for $497? Do you want this? He asked me for like 3 or 4 upsells before I could even check out. And that was a little bit annoying, but he's used to selling high ticket items. So that probably works for him, but omnipresent marketing is, and I forgot what the guy's name is, but I bought that. And I learned a lot from that $67 or whatever I spent yesterday, and I would totally spend that. But I'm at a different stage than everyone. I have a little bit more marketing, and I'm also, my vision's different because I want to hit a global scale. I'm going to close out US, get everyone who's booking corporate events to know what my brand is, then hit a global thing. But then when I hit global, I'm going to need a team of magicians because I don't want to wake up for a group in Singapore or Europe, but I need to first figure out everything on a small scale, do things that don't scale, then scale.
I love that. I've heard John Lee Dumas. I don't know if you know about him. He's another podcaster. I've been on his show and, follow him, and I know him from 4 or 5 years ago. But he talks about that all the time. I was just in a clubhouse with him the other day and he was talking about doing things that don't scale.
Yeah.
So I love that. So, Dan, do you read books?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the last book you read that you could recommend?
Quite a few. I love the Crazy Rich Asian book, the Crazy Rich Asians. That just understands brands, because I'm selling high ticket items to people who want to be a part of this luxury mindset. So that's why I read that book. But there's also Ray Dalio's Principles, and Simon Sinek's books are great as well.
Awesome. So many good recommendations that I'm going to get to check out now. I like your mentality of reading the Crazy Rich Asians to figure out that mindset.
It's aspirational. We're all aspirational. So we have to think, most people want to take money from someone. I want to see how I can pull them up. And then later on, they're taking me out to lunch or dinner or whatever. I'm just sharing my best information, some of my best things, because it's not a zero-sum game in a lot of things. If it's a pump and dump, it is. But if I tell you someone to buy into Google and you're putting ads and I'm putting ads in it, that means every time I'm spending, I'm putting money in my own company, right? I really believe in YouTube ads. I believe in Google ads, not as much as YouTube ads, because the return on investment. No, the problem with Google ads is anyone could put a Google ad up, but it takes a lot of time to put a video up. And no one wants to spend the time, because video, you realize all these inconsistencies. You realize that it's tough doing video, and you hate looking at yourself over video. Get over it, man. Just get over how bad you look and just get out there. People will criticize, and you will realize what you did earlier sucks, and then you can delete it. Or if it sucks, you can always do a before and after and show how far you've gone. I'm going to probably tell you in 5 years to get rid of this podcast, and I'm going to say, can we refilm this? I've got some good stuff, and you'll probably want to do that as well. And occasionally, when new things occur, you can update it.
Absolutely.
Whether it's us moving this podcast to a different platform, non-audio, or some new platform that has figured this audio video transition. So like when we're done with something, when you're done with a podcast or you need to go somewhere, you jump in your car, you want to be able to hit that audio without YouTube charging you to do that, because YouTube has that functionality, I think, now where you can shut the screen off and still play or do something.
Like $15
YouTube
a month.
Charges you for that.
Yeah.
There's a company that's going to be VC backed probably that will fit that need.
Spotify, I know, was making changes because when they bought Joe Rogan, they wanted to create a video platform inside of Spotify for podcasts. So they might be the ones trying to tackle that right now.
I think they're a little too big for that, but I think that they might have something on it because they already have that market niche. Yep. But just because you mentioned that, I'm going to probably end up buying one share of Spotify stock today just to track it, so that I feel like I'm invested in an industry. I'm not, like when people bought GameStop, I bought one share just because I just wanted to see. That was one of the mistakes, but I only bought one share, so it didn't hurt. So don't jump in all the way in the deep end when you don't know what you're doing. And I'm a really good investor. I was PayPal pre-IPO, and I have, every time Google has hired me, I bought a share of stock, and I have, over 50 shares of stock in Google right now.
Nice.
But I never jumped in the deep end. They supported me. They kept on hiring me. I kept on doing that. And then I started understanding that, and I understood more of their business model. But don't listen to me and buy Google. You're going to end up having to do your research. But if you say that, hey, maybe I can blow whatever $1, buy Google and figure it out. Or Lenovo. I'm really big on Lenovo right now because I looked at their PE ratio. I looked at their balance sheet. I looked at the analytics. I broke it down, and I asked myself, what's their business model? How are they functioning? And for the next 2 years, I think Lenovo is going to do really, really well. And I bought like 40,000 shares plus of Lenovo recently.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Yeah. So, okay, we just talked about how, in 5 years, we're going to look back on this and want to redo it. So can you look back and tell me a story of one of your biggest marketing mistakes, a time when you wasted a lot of time or money on something?
Do you have an hour? Well, so, not being protective of your sales funnel, or working with clients that weren't a right fit. Because when you start throwing ads out there and then you're retargeting people who aren't a right fit, You have to have a specific funnel. And I think someone was saying you have got to protect the top of your funnel. And I actually don't think I've done that. And I really don't know what that means exactly, but I actually think that that's one of the mistakes that I've done is once they're in your sales funnel, you're showing them ads and then they're clicking on it, but they're not converting. But if it's only a penny or two on YouTube, you can risk that, right?
Yeah.
So I think I would have spent more on YouTube branding ads than search ads. That's actually something that I'm thinking that was probably a mistake, because when I did these pay-per-click at one time, YouTube pay-per-clicks for Corporate Magician was like $10, $20 a click.
Oh, wow.
But YouTube impression ads were literally a penny or two. You could get them like that because there's so many skip ads and there's so much more, there's so much of a market out there, and then you can customize to that intent. Like if someone is searching, they have these layering and they have a 3-dimensional. You want to know who your customer is, what their ideal demographic is, which for me, which is corporations, and now it's switching to regular buyers because we're competing on a global scale and I'm selling ticketed things. So you want to ask, who's your customer? Where do they look? Maybe it's on Penn and Teller Fool Us or other channels. You can target those things very, very specific. And you want to dig down deep and not do it superficial, because you could throw money at it. And that's where my wife is great, is because she'll be like, hey, I can do this better than you. And then I'll get her started and she's gonna do it a lot better than I could. And that is why men need women, because you need a better half.
Yeah, there you go. I've got mine.
Yeah.
So really quick, before I go on to the next question, I was just thinking about it from pre-interview. I want to ask you really quick. We talked about how you're featured in all of these different publications, from Buzzfeed to CNBC, all of these different things. Can we talk real quick about how you made that happen? Because that's really cool.
Having one hook that gets an email open. And for me, it was, hey, I'm a pre-IPO PayPal employee who's done this, gone to Zoom. I worked alongside Elon Musk at PayPal. Oh, I made $500,000 within a certain amount of time. And would you like to feature that? That's, who wouldn't want, any reporter want to do that? So it would be great if you thought about, like, even if you can associate with your brand, but you can't, that will only take you so far. If I said, there's a lot of guys who worked at PayPal, they could say that, but where are they now? My transition was a story and they can hook onto that. How many guys from PayPal went to do magic and are actually good at it? So the one thing is you have to be good, and have to know what that hook is. And a lot of marketers are great because they know what that hook is, but they have no game to back it up. I have that game. So that's when I got on the call with them, they're like, oh, what's going on? Wow, this just sounds good. I'm writing that article on it, right?
Yeah. Okay,
So
cool. Yeah, that's cool.
a hook. And I actually did that whole thing on LinkedIn marketing with Thomas Wall. The podcast is really, really good. He's a variety artist. You just search LinkedIn marketing Dan Chan with Thomas Wall, and I go 1 hour into it. In fact, if you go to my LinkedIn profile and you click on that top thing, you can see that voice thing. And I actually not just put my name in there, I actually give my quick elevator pitch when you hit the sound button, which is a cool little tip.
I did not know that. I'm going to have to for sure do that. But I love the idea of having that hook. I mean, going back to your son juggling flaming torches, like having that one thing that's going to make you stand out to whoever you're trying to pitch to. So with all those articles, when you reached out, just really quick, how did you reach it? Like, how did you find out who to reach to? I mean, did you just message them on Facebook, or how did you reach out to those people?
LinkedIn.
But there you go.
You cannot spam on LinkedIn. They will shut you down if you spam, because they'll say you do not know this, and they'll say put the email. So be really thoughtful. Don't just say, hey, yo. I get that on Facebook. They want to make a friend request, but they don't even write hi Daniel, or when I make a connection request and I want to make an impact, I'll say, hi Matt, I noticed that you have this podcast, and you saw that I actually had connections that I actually thought of where you're at, and I knew who your audience was, and that's why I connected with you. But I do that with every single journalist. But that takes time, that takes training. Just as much as I practice my magic in the past, that's how I'm thinking about it. And you have to constantly think about it.
I love that. And honestly, like that's part of the reason that I was wanted to have you on, because I looked on there. It's like, this guy's published in a lot of different things. Business Insider was another one. Like you're all over the place, and it just builds up that credibility. When you're pitching to other people, it's like, well, here, these people thought it was worthy enough about to write about, and it's a laundry list of awesome things that you've done, you know?
And I'll tell you about some of my failures, just so that so it humanizes it, and so it also inspires you. My goal wasn't to get on these things in the beginning. My goal was to go to Magic Magazine, Genie Magazine, Balloon Magic Magazine, and Jungle Magazine. Those were my goals 10 years ago. I pitched these guys and I wasn't as good as a magician. I couldn't get these features. I wanted Juggle Magazine. I wanted it so bad, but I wasn't a great juggler, but I'm a great talker. So ended up, it's a great thing, because if I hit that, I might have stopped, or I wouldn't have pushed as hard. And I made so many mistakes pitching, both relationship wise and other things, that I learned from those mistakes. So when I pitched these bigger things, who reads Genie Magazine and Magic Magazine? But now if I hit Fortune or Wired, and Wired interviewed me twice, they just haven't published anything, and they went back and forth. And I'm like, that just makes me want to work a lot harder. So when I want to hit Fortune, I'm going to make it so worthy. But he who tells the best story in life wins. And sometimes when I was young, I did some stupid things. And I don't recommend this. I don't recommend skydiving. I don't recommend bungee jumping, but I did them all. But that makes a really, really great story. I twisted my ankle on my last skydive and stopped skydiving. But you never know. You do take risks, but you got to be really careful and cautious. And I don't think I want to be I don't want to be a skydiver anymore, because you can't be a skydiver if your mind is all over the place. So you have to know your weakness. I did it once. I got lucky, but you never know. Okay. So don't do things that you're not an expert at. And when you do things, do it tandem. Do it with someone who's been there and done that, because they're going to tell you how to do it. Everyone's trying to do things and they don't want to pay for a coach. Like my coaching is really affordable. It's $100 an hour. And people think that's a lot of money. And you can buy my coaching hours at Human IPO, Dan Chan or Daniel Chan. But compared to what I'm charging for a corporate client who just hired me yesterday, paying $2,000 for a corporate show, I'm giving you a gift of my time if I even take you. And most people are like hesitant. So you know who's your audience, but there are certain people who want to dive in deeper or find out some of the different things. You can always, hit me up for coaching. I do that. I'm not I'm not the best coach, but I'm still doing it. And I do have clients, but it's getting out there and just being really competitive in your pricing, and then moving that price point higher.
Yep. I love that. And I love what you said in there. He has the best story wins.
That is something I learned from a magician. I think it was Michael Weber, who is an insanely great magician. And he's a magic consultant for movies and things like that, but you should look up Michael Weber.
Michael Weber. I'm going to check that out, because that idea of the story, that's something I've been diving into lately when it comes to marketing, because like you said, he who has the best story wins, because marketing, it's about making people feel something and connect. And, it's hard to do that without some kind of a story, without, making them feel that emotion. So who he has the best story wins. I love that saying.
But we all know that, but that word or phrase became an elevator pitch where we can all connect with it. And it gives us this anchor that we want to move toward. The problem is most people do not have an elevator pitch. So write out your elevator pitch and practice that. Yeah, I had my son practicing it, and we're still not that great at it, because you saw me just mess it up. At age 5, James was juggling 3 balls. At age 8, he was juggling 5 balls. By age 10, he was juggling 3 flaming torches and picking pockets. By age 12, James' credits include appearing on ABC 7 News, Kids Say the Darndest Things, and Access Daily with Penn and Teller. Now, people are afraid of looking at notes. It used to be like, you're in an elevator and you look at a note. Now you're on the webcast, your eyes barely move off to the side. And if you're reading it, they're going to forgive you because you're practicing your Evernote page. So if you have something, go in Apple and create a shortcut. Go right in the top where it says Apple System Preferences, go to Text, go to Keyboard Text Shortcuts. And right when I type in this PPTT, that whole thing comes out.
Ah.
Like if I hit Mercury News, that comes out. So when I'm pitching guys on LinkedIn, I don't type and I actually don't even cut and paste. I have a system that works. But don't use this as spam. Use it to the best and modify it before you hit send.
I love that little hack there with the keyboard shortcuts. I'm going to be using that later.
It is amazing. I use this all the time, and it's cross-functional too. So if you, I'm going to show this to you right here on my, we won't give you your phone number out, but I'm going to hit to this here. So look, right here, if I hit PCM, it'll actually say, and I'll cover out my phone number, but it actually says, please text me at, and I'll call you right back, Dan Chan, danchanmagic.com.
I didn't know that it would work on the phone. They switch over to the phones too.
It actually switches over. So like I have this new website, and you don't want to talk to people as much. You want to talk to people, but when there's a lot of people who abuse your times, tire kickers. So I drive them with a custom message, and I'll just hit like, here's my website. Please check out my website, millionairesmentalist.com, where you can see all my latest videos and concepts. And let me give you a call back after you've taken a look. So now that puts their ball in their court to consume your content, come into that funnel without you saying, what do you do? And then them doing this, right?
Yep. That's smart.
People will always abuse your time. So you have to know to put your content out there and make it good, and then get them on the hook and them hooked first, and them coming in.
I love that idea.
And I'm teaching some of these things in my magic shows. I'm actually not just doing magic, because once I'm done, I'll teach 1 or 2 marketing things that people are going to latch onto, because everyone does magic in my industry. There's thousands of marketers, but there's very, very few magicians who actually teach 1 or 2 marketing concepts. Even if they're basic, people hook onto it because I've said it so many times that it's distilled.
Love that. Absolutely love it. So Dan, I know we've talked about a lot of different marketers on here so far today, but who's your favorite marketer that you follow?
To be honest, right now, the guy who does omnipresent marketing.
Okay. Because
he's followed me around with these ads. He's like put this tags. He actually has these remarketing tags that he just tagged me on. And when I was smart enough to click on one of his things, and he just followed me around, and I ended up, spending $100 on him. So there's something you can learn from everyone, even if it's his high ticket items, not for me. At least I've learned one new thing, which was I'm rusty at this YouTube stuff, and I need to get back on that YouTube ad thing.
Gotcha. I love that. I'm trying to find the omnipresent marketing. If you Google that, there's actually, is it automatedDreams.com omnipresent marketing?
The guy that I saw coin it was Ad Outreach, and his name is, in fact, I have Alaric Heck, ALERICHECK.
Okay, cool. I'll have to find him and put him on the show notes as well to make sure everybody can check that out, because that's something I'm going to check out as well.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it there just yet until you've experienced it, because like he does have a lot of upsells, so that might not resonate with everyone. But I love the $60. I bought in, I think, on the 2 things, but I didn't buy any of the other upsells. Once I get that, I'll give him a testimonial if it works. But until then, I'm not going to put my, I don't want your guys buying $1,000 course when it might not be a fit for them yet.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate the authenticity there. Yeah. So what's your favorite marketing tool and why?
That keyboard shortcut right now.
That's so simple. I love that. I mean,
it is my favorite thing, hands down. And that's why I buy Apple products. Apple fell 2% today or 3%. I end up buying a couple of shares of Apple just because I'm like, I love Apple.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure other things can do it. I'm sure Samsung, but I want an ecosystem where everything transfers over. Yep. And they might not be, some of my tech friends swear they're not the best or they're behind. For me, it just makes it so easy because they dumb it down. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
what
it's
I need.
so user friendly. And being able to add it on your laptop and it just adds it to your phone automatically.
Yep.
That's something I'm going to do because have you heard of Text Expander?
No, I haven't. What is that?
So it's basically what you just showed me with the keyboard shortcuts, but I have to
Okay.
pay for it every year. So I'm going to cancel that so I can use the keyboard shortcuts because it's cool because it'll like, you can put a paragraph in there and have blanks. So when you auto populate it, you fill in those blanks, like you said, to customize it to each person. But
Let me look at that. I might actually end up just trying it for one. It's called Text Expander.
yep, Text Expander.
Okay.
I mean, it's worth a free trial. I'd love to know after if you try it, if it's better or worse than the keyboard shortcuts. Because the one thing that I don't like, which the keyboard shortcuts does, is that it adds it to your phone. Now, there is a Text Expander keyboard that you can use on your iPhone, but I like using the Google keyboard because I like the swipe to text thing. So if I wanted to use the Text Expander feature, I would have to switch over to that keyboard.
I'll tell you one thing, Matt, and this is going to help you a lot because you're going to like this. If I did not tell you this one key, and this is like when you see a high level thing, people don't tell you what's beneath the surface. And if I did not tell you this one thing, you would say this sucks because you would be using it wrong. And most people are buying into courses or they're not figuring out it because they're using it wrong. If you use this text shortcut, you have to do like not MA. Like if I wanted to say like mergers and acquisition, if I did the text replacement, if I typed MA and it'll always get annoying because when I type in the word Matt's,
It would
replace it with that. And then you get say, I hate this. I hate this. So there's certain things that you never consciously type together, like MP. So if you can say, hey, my name's Matt Pete, check me out here. Nowhere in the English language does MP show up, right? So you're not gonna, it's very rare, but if you type it and it starts frustrating you and it auto expands, change the word to MZ or something else that you rarely type. But I saw a lot of people quitting this because, and myself, my wife and my kids sometimes use my computer and like, I type in AD and it says, James appeared on Access Daily with Penn and Teller. When I do this, they hate it because they go on my computer and this pops up. So I might have to do like, so I actually do PPTT. Actually, I should do that. I have to PTT that there. So I actually need to delete AD because it's been annoying me and my kids because it just pops up every time I write add symbol, add something, and it just shows up. So combinations are really, really important. No two vowels together, two vowels together or two consonants together typically don't show up in the start of something, and it actually has that phrasing. So if it does get annoying, think about it. Don't abandon it. It really does work.
Yeah. And one thing I've done with Text Expander, because I ran into that issue where I would like type my name and it would fill in all of my contact information. I started adding a semicolon before. So like if I wanted to put my podcast or my website MP, I would do semicolon MP because I never use semicolons. Like you said, make something to make it unique, something different that you're not typing all of the time.
Yep.
Yeah. Cause I've been there where I've accidentally typed out one of those shortcuts and just hit send and it changed it and sent it. And I was like really embarrassed because it was like, it's completely out of context message that I sent to them because it auto corrected everything or auto changed everything.
Exactly.
That's really cool though. I'm definitely gonna be checking out the keyboard shortcuts and adding those to my computer and phone because that's going to speed things up. So Dan, if you could go back in time to when you first started out with all this marketing and everything, what would be one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
Ask more questions and ask higher quality questions. And talk to people because when we're talking and you're not listening, there's no feedback loop. So often we're broadcasting. And it's okay when you're an expert to broadcast because you've earned that right. But there's so many people who end up broadcasting when they should be listening and they don't know that they should be doing that. So become a good listener.
I love that. Love that because one of the things I'm doing with this podcast is, if you don't know, my background is in photography and videography. So I realized I had some clients that I was working with, some marketing clients. And I tell the story. I shot a video a couple years ago, November 2019. I showed up. I was coming from this world of like corporations and small business. They hire me to come into their events and make these epic videos, these highlight videos and promos to like sell the future events and everything. And this marketer reached out to me and she's like, "Hey, can you come shoot this video for my client?" Showed up. It's just a camera on a tripod of the people talking. And then I got like a couple of shots of the things they were selling to throw on top of the video. And in my mind, I'm like you talked about earlier about giving refunds. I literally took their money and I put it in a separate account, like a separate savings thing, because I was expecting them to ask for their money back because the videos, they weren't fun. They weren't hyped up. They weren't energetic and all this stuff. And I was like, there's no way this is going to be what they want, you know? So I sent them the videos and they loved it. They're like, "Oh my gosh, these are so perfect." And they put it online. The company, like their franchise company, reached out and asked who made their videos and everything. And it was a changing experience. You know, I had to ask questions and learn how
And
to.
I had a great idea that's even better. I think that I recant about what we said earlier is not about, it might be a hesitation to give a refund, but offer to redo it until it's right.
Yeah. I mean,
You have to, if you're not satisfied with it, you could say, I wasn't really happy with that. Thanks for not taking my refund, or thanks for doing this, but I would like to just do this for you for free. I want to redo your video. Is there another event? And then find an off day and then get your practice in, because it just obviously, if it doesn't meet your standard, it's not going to meet other people's standard if you have high bar of excellence. So
yeah, I mean,
thank them saying, "Hey, you were one of my first customers. I'm really thankful. That video to me kind of sucked." And just be honest with them. I think I'm so much better. That's going to resonate with them. Then they're going to ask, "Oh, if this guy thinks this sucks and I think it's good, and he's offering this to me as a little bonus, I would like to be with this guy because I want to support them. I want to see where they're going to go." And
well,
that's
honestly, like I shot the videos and like I said, their main company asked who made them because they loved it so much. And what it did for me is it reframed what what the difference between like a hype video, a promo reel or whatever, and a marketing video is. Because it doesn't have to be like this high energy, like super epic shots the whole time. Like you said, it was telling a story and people were bought into what was happening on screen, what they were saying. And they ran that ad for a weekend. They had a sale going on and they made over $200,000 in 2.5 days. I haven't made, that's more than I make in 2 years, you know? So like they made that much money. It shifted what that video was.
So it's asking someone, how can I get on the bigger piece of the pie? So I'm going to give you a strategy thing right here is if you start thinking, "Hey, can you give me equity?" You'll think of a way to frame it so that they will give you equity eventually. But you can't say, "I'm going to ask for equity now." They're going to be, who's this? But you might say to a couple other people, you give other people equity first in terms of, "Oh, there's a magician who's at your event." And you say, "Hey, I just took a picture of you. I'm going to give this to you." And don't try to charge them for it. Just, you're already at that event. Just gift it to them and say, "Hey, do you think you could tag me on Instagram? Do you think you can write a review for me on Yelp?" Or just give it to them and then say, "Hey, I'm on Yelp." And don't ask them to write it. Just give them that one gift. Magicians love that. And they'll be like your best friend. But give value first. So other vendors there, snap a picture of that, post it to your Instagram or give them that picture. And then they're going to be like, "Hey, I got this free photo." Because, some of the best photos that I have, if you run a trade show booth, don't give away crap. Consider having a photographer take pictures of all your staff before they show up in the morning when you do your roundup, and then give all your clients a picture of themselves. And that they're not going to no one's going to throw a picture of them away. They're going to post it on their Facebook and Instagram and something. And if you get them a really good one, that's the one that they're going to use forever. It's going to cost you a lot more, but your line around the trade show booth will be bigger than even having a magician. And I create massive crowds for my trade show audiences. So you can have that as a strategy of, "Hey, I noticed your company is at Dreamforce." Now, reframe this. if you showed up and you gave that to them, you're not paying for a trade show floor booth. I don't know if you understand how much real estate on a trade show floor booth costs.
Oh, I bet.
It's
Yeah.
$20,000 to $30,000 for 2 or 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
So you're thinking, oh, this guy's not going to pay me. You want to solve their problem. Like if you were in the Bay Area, that's how much it would cost for trade show floor. I don't know where you live, but if you go someplace, you can say, hey, I am a photographer. I have a day off. I will do this for you for free. But try, and if you can't do it, just send someone to do it. Maybe a kid from college or high school, and just say, hey, I couldn't make it. But you still upended it. They can't expect a lot for free, but you start building a brand and you need leverage. And it's getting other people to get in, but also protecting your brand image. So as a photographer, do you hire people out now?
Not usually, but there are instances where we have bigger events where we need help and we hire people out.
So why don't you do this? It's such a competitive marketplace. You are, how old are you?
30. Well, turning 30 this year.
So there's probably a 20-year-old in your market who probably wants to get broke through, and they're probably very good. Don't think of them as a threat. Think of them as when you can't take a gig, you pass it off to them and you make 10 or 20%. And if they get better than you, say that. Don't be afraid of that. Because when a chef left Thomas Keller, the 3-star Michelin restaurant, when he's better than you, that's a measure of your success. So get them better than you and out of your price range, because all these older guys in my market used to look at me as like a threat. What they should have said is, this guy's so freaking ambitious, let's kick him out of my price point. Because if you see a hard worker, they're gonna get there regardless if you help them or not. So why don't you help them get there?
That's a great point.
That is, and most people are like looking at you, like they saw me as ambitious and they saw me as a threat, but now like I'm out of their price zone. And I actually want to get like to a Netflix special or do other things besides magic. But most people are thinking, I'm going to compete and the photographer is my competition. No, the 20-year-old photographer is not your competition. He can be your team member for 5 years, and know that they're going to leave, and know that you're going to make them a better person before they left, and know that they can thank you. By the time they leave, hopefully they'll drive traffic back to you. Now that is having that mentality of blue ocean strategy. And that's what real blue ocean strategy is about, is this ocean is so big.
Yep. I love that. And that mentality of hoping, that your success is their success and surpassing you.
It's a reflection of how good you were as a mentor.
Yep. I heard a coach recently, he has a course online, and he was talking about that, about how it's a humbling experience, but it's one of the most complimentary things that can happen is when your student is now so much better than you, and it's just, it does humble you, I imagine, because you start off, like I said, if I were to hire a 20-year-old to come in and be like an associate photographer or videographer for me, and then in 5 years, they're better than me, a lot of people would look at that as like a negative and like I trained my own competition. But really, like you said, it's a flattering thing. It shows how well you did as a coach, as a mentor, like you said. Yeah.
And if you know that they're good, there's something that they just learned from school that you don't have to go back to school, and you just have to ask them politely to show you what they know.
Exactly.
And now, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, eventually, hopefully it'll drive traffic back to you. I mean, if you genuinely help them for 5 years, there's going to be some reciprocity there as they go forward. And, they're going to remember you, if nothing else, than to just be friends with you. And if they become better than you, then that is going to benefit you in the long run anyways. Yeah. Because like you said, they're, I'm sure, willing to help you after that. So I love that mentality, that mindset of expanding by helping others grow so you can eventually grow. I mean, it's a beautiful thing. So Dan, I want to go ahead and wrap up the podcast interview here. We've talked about a ton of marketing stuff here in this episode. I'm super excited to get in and get this released, but what's the best way for people to follow up with you and kind of track where you're doing?
millionairesmentalist.com. Okay. And danchanmagic.com. That has all my media mentions.
Awesome.
And I have a publicly ticketed show. So if you want to buy a ticket to show and afterwards hang out in the room and say, hey, I saw you at, I heard of you from Matt Pete's podcast and I want to pick your brain, buy a ticket and pick my brain for 10 minutes after the show.
That would be super cool. Awesome. All right, everybody. So you heard it here. Go check out Dan, get a ticket to one of his shows. Thank you for joining. And everybody remember that marketing matters.